Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
It's really true, is it really true?
just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geri Petito Show. Everyone and anyone who knows me knows I am the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass, guys, because over 32 years ago I was a dumbass, but today, 32 years later, through the grace of God, I can honestly say now I'm a smartass. And yes, the word ass is in the Bible at least 40 times, and it means donkey, and that's what I was. I'm saying all that to say this, everyone out there listening, if anyone needs help, I'm a recovery coach, I'm a nutritional health coach. All of my services to you are free. I don't want anyone out there feeling alone or feeling like there's no one they can talk to. Please, please reach out. There's always help out there. If you think my book can help someone, because I do, you can go right to Simon & Schuster's bookstore, Archway Publishing, BAM, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and you can go to my website, www.geripetito.com. Okay, guys, and here's the thing. If you truly, truly, truly cannot afford my book, please, please reach out to me about that as well. I want to give a shout out to a couple of my sponsors. First, I want to start with Paula Ann from Ablaze Entertainment and Freedom Rings Festival, helping survivors of human trafficking to live a life of normalcy. Please, please check her out. www.freedomringsfestival.com. What they're doing for these people is unbelievable. And the Geri Petito Show is also one of her sponsors, okay? Then we've got John Bishop, a.k.a. Johnny B., singer, songwriter, host of the Entertainment Luncheon South, a nonprofit network created for the creative. His Facebook group page, Entertainment Luncheon South, partner in the Joey D and Johnny B Rock and Oldies Band. Facebook group page, Joey D, Johnny B Rock and Oldies Band, guys, and what they do is unbelievable. They support all of us more than anybody else, so please check them out, okay? And then I've got John Monforto, the man of many faces, singer, actor, celebrity impersonator, and tribute artist. He was given the title of the Philadelphia Rocky Impersonator by one of the former mayors of Philly. You can go to his website, www.johnmonforto.com. And I'm the one who gave him the name, the man of many faces. He is off the charts. He does over 30 different, impersonations, I'm going to say. Of course, being the Italian I am, Rocky and The Godfather are my two favorites. And when I tell you, you would not know the difference, okay? So check him out. So now, guys, I always bring it, right? Well, I am really bringing it again today, okay? I have an incredible guest, incredible author. He's going to blow your mind. But you know what? I want him to give you the proper introduction to him, and I want him to say his name perfectly. I don't want to mess this up. So, Tom, tell everyone who you are.
Tom Smith.
No, you're not. I could have said that.
Yeah, my name's Tom Aviatabile. It's an Italian name. It's long, and everybody screws it up. And I've been on NBC, and I've been on podcasts, and nobody gets it right. In fact, I have a clip reel of everybody saying my name wrong. So it's like fun.
Say it one more time for me. Say it one more time.
Aviatabile. Aviatabile.
Aviatabile. Aviatabile.
Anybody watching from the Bronx probably knows me as Avitable, because that's what they used to call me. But then my mother said, Tom, it's really Aviatabile. So,
I love that. Aviatabile. Tom, everybody. There you go.
And I say this all the time. When I first started as an author, I went to a large meeting of these giant authors. And it was a guy named John LaScroix. But if you looked at his name, it was LaScroix Art, the way it was spelled, but it had this
okay.
French kind of intonation. And he heard my name, and he walked over to me. And he's a big author, great guy. And he said, "Hey, kid, you want to sell 10 million more books? Change your name." And I think he was right.
Oh my gosh, you're
But
so
I kept
funny.
it.
That's so funny. So Tom, first of all, what we're going to talk about on this show is it kind of is amazing for me to hear what you have to say about it all, because it's called Revealing Mysteries of JFK Murder, correct?
Yeah, well, yes, that's the backdrop of my
Yes.
book, which is, Ask Not. It's
Ask
right there,
Not.
right there, right,
That's right.
right there.
Right there. You're right. Ask not. So talk to us about it. When did you write it? What's happening? And a little bit about it.
Well, kind of funny. Somewhere around June of last year, two things happened. One, RFK was running for president, and in his speech or whatever he said he had proof that the CIA killed his uncle.
Okay.
For all you history buffs out there, his uncle was John F. Kennedy.
Yep.
And he says he had proof that the CIA killed his uncle, and the world believes that it was Lee Harvey Oswald. The difference between people who believe it's Lee Harvey Oswald and people who believe it's something else is the entire conspiracy cottage industry of JFK.
Okay.
So when I heard him say that, I flashed back to a screenplay that I had written in 1993, which was called Ask Not. And it was essentially a story about a guy who finds an artifact from the Kennedy assassination. In 1993, it was 30 years later, and he decides to sell it. And everyone who touches the artifact dies. And when the brother of my lead character, or as we say in the industry, protagonist, when the brother of my main character is killed, he goes to find out what happened, and he unwittingly gets a hold of this artifact that everybody who touches dies, and the game is set, and the book is going. What he encounters is all these theories. And all these theories come to him because his brother had something to do with it. So he meets people that are serious researchers and not so serious researchers, and conspiracy enthusiasts and conspiracy nuts. And all of this while he's trying to figure out what happened to his brother. And he starts off saying, well, I guess it was Lee Harvey Oswald. That's what they said. By the end, not so sure. Because you get all these various theories, and when you really dive into them, and millions of Americans do, they either make you go, or nah, because some of them are plausible and some of them are super out there. So it's a kind of a really deep field to choose from. You can pick a bouquet or a dinner from any one of the conspiracy theories and live in them for a while. In fact, when I pitched it to my publisher, I said, who doesn't love to get involved and wrap themselves in a nice warm conspiracy theory, So anyway, the whole JFK thing is the backdrop to what is essentially a murder mystery, and a brother trying to figure out what happened to his brother. And along the way, he meets a whole bunch of different people, some a little out there and some really serious. He meets a lot of historical figures that pop up, and it's doing very well. It's gotten great reviews. People, I think, enjoy going for the ride. I'm constantly getting great reviews from people, both readers and professional reviews. So I'll knock wood and say it's really good. But if you want to find out for yourself, there's a QR code here on the screen, and that'll take you to where you can get the book or find out more information about it. But if you're not QRable, it's asknotbook.com. That's ask, A-S-K, book, B-O-O-K. I'm sorry, Ask Not Book, the bird bothered me. Asknotbook.com, A-S-K-B-O-O, no, A-S-K-N-O-T. Wait, with this I now, A-S-K-N-O-T-B-O-O-K.com. That was weird. Anyway, I write for a living. I must have 10 million words in print, and I couldn't say that.
So I met Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I have a photo with him and I, and we protested together pre-COVID in Trenton, New Jersey for our constitutional rights.
Wow.
And I've been part of that for a long time. We won both times I protested with my daughter because they're trying to change even our Constitution, our freedom,
Yeah.
religious freedom, and all that. So it was great meeting him and listening to him and getting my photo with him. So it was really cool. So that's why, this topic here, I love this. Let me ask you something. Your opinion, obviously, because it's everyone's opinion, okay? Your opinion. Which way do you swing with it?
Well, I'll tell you. I've been studying this since 1972. In 1993, I wrote the screenplay. And in 1993, I went for the money, and I raised money from a day trader who I went to his massive office in Long Island somewhere. And I knew I was going to get the money when I looked on the wall, and he had the fender flags from the Lincoln Continental that Kennedy was shot in. He had paid $20,000 for them in auction. So he did give me money, but I didn't get enough money, so I wound up giving it back to him. I needed $4 million, and I only had like $2 million, and I wasn't going to do a cheaper version of the film. But even with him, and even with his knowledge, even with him and his knowledge of things, he was not convinced that it was Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay.
And here's the problem. There's only two things we know about the Kennedy assassination. Only two things. They're very easy. The president's dead, and Ruby shot Oswald. Everything else disappeared before Kennedy was in the ground. Now, what do I mean by that?
Yeah. What do you mean? Tell us.
There is nothing but speculation on every possible turn to what happened to John F. Kennedy in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. Before he died, and I have eyewitness testimony by a New York Times reporter, before he was dead at the hospital, at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, they were washing down the back seat of the limousine. And this reporter lovingly remembered it because of the color of the water in the stainless steel bucket turned a crimson, a color of crimson that he had never seen before. The blood being washed off into the bucket. And that's a crime scene. And they destroyed the evidence of the crime scene. Even though it was a car, it was moving, that was the crime area that the murder happened in. And even though it was an emerging field at that time, blood spatter was a high determinant of directionality of bullet. And if there's anything that motivates the JFK theories at this point, it's all about where did the bullet come from? And of course, this brings us to the popular grassy knoll. But some people say it was a sewer. Some people say it was a grassy knoll. Some people say it was the triple overpass. Some people say it was triangulated fire between the Texas School Book Depository, the Daltex building, and the Dallas County Records building. Some people say there were 7 shooters. Some people say it was the Secret Service agent shot him. Somebody even said it was Jackie. It goes from to nah. So I put together a book. A small book, which you can get. It's free if you just email me or go to, you have to email me, tom@author.nyc, and I'll send you my top 10 JFK conspiracy theories. And it's a collection of the top 10 theories that make you go, or nah. So the point is, the only two things we know are the only definite things. Everything else we don't know about. The brain was missing. There was 2 autopsies. The Parkland doctor said entrance wounds. Well, that would indicate a shot from the front, because we see on the Zapruder film, which, by the way, no one for 12 years saw. And we have to expand history, because when we think about history, it gets compressed. There was 12 years in the United States of America when all we had was the still photos from Life magazine of the Zapruder film. Nobody saw it until 1975, when a guy who was a consultant on my film, which was Asnot, who eventually went on to consult for the movie JFK, Oliver Stone's JFK, a guy named Robert Groden, he worked at a photo lab, and he stole a copy of the Zapruder film. And he brought it to Good Night America with Geraldo Rivera. And they rolled it on ABC network television. And America, for the first time, 12 years after the assassination, saw the actual footage. And when you see a still and the head is like this, that's where the head is. When you see the film and you see how the head got there, it's a whole different story. So it rose from that arose all these conspiracy theories. And if you saw the Oliver Stone movie, the big thing was back and to the left, meaning the bullet had to come from the right front because his head was blown back to the left. And America bought that from the Oliver Stone film. So much so that the Congress of the United States created the House Committee on Assassinations, which was to look into a former committee, which was organized by Lyndon Baines Johnson, called the Warren Commission. The Warren Commission released a 26-volume tome, 1,400 pages of everything and the brother-in-law about the assassination. None of it has any actual fact, because they're all dealing from suppositions. They're all dealing from things they said they found, and now we have proof that maybe they didn't find them. And they didn't ask certain questions that they should have. And part of the reason for this, and I think part of the reason why RFK feels the CIA was a major contributor to his uncle's death, was because Johnson put the head of the CIA on the Warren Commission, but not just the head of the CIA, the fired head of the CIA, who was fired by the Kennedys, which would be RFK's father, Robert, and his uncle, John. Mm-hmm. They fired the head of the CIA because they were crazy. They were going out, they wanted to kill de Gaulle. They killed a Southeast Asian president of a country against JFK's wishes. And they did the whole Bay of Pigs thing, which was a disaster from the start, mostly because JFK didn't want to invade a sovereign country. So JFK, Cuba, and the CIA kind of revolve around, in orbit around the whole JFK assassination. But Johnson put the guy they fired on the Warren Commission. So did he just aim the Warren Commission away from anything that had anything to do with their complicity? It's enough to drive you crazy. It's a rabbit hole. So all of this is in the book to one degree or another. And then there's my favorite one is, and I know you asked me what side I fall down on, and no one's actually seen, as far as I know, there is no eyewitness to Lee Harvey Oswald pulling the trigger.
Right.
As far as we know, there is no one who placed him anywhere but in the lunchroom within 2 minutes, some say a minute, after the assassination, which was from the 6th floor to the 2nd floor on the other side of the building. And he was buying a Coke.
Hold that thought. Wait, I don't usually interrupt my guests, but come
That's
on.
okay.
I have to. So what I just heard was, from the moment he was shot to the moment they found Lee, he was buying a Coke 4 or 5 flights down.
Right.
Okay, continue.
And we know this because Marion Barry was a Dallas police motorcycle officer. He made his way to the Texas School Book Depository. Even though all the radio calls for 12 minutes on the Dallas police radio, and I have transcripts, sent everybody to the railroad area, not the Texas School Book Depository. But he ran there because he saw birds flying off the roof. And he ran up the stairs with a guy who was the foreman. Roy Truly was the foreman of the Texas School Book Depository. And as they got to the 2nd floor, Marion Baker, if I said Marion Barry, he's a mayor, Marion Baker, patrolman Marion, pulled his gun. He had his gun out, and he was pointing it at Oswald. And Roy Truly, who was the manager of the building, said, "Oh no, he's okay. He works here." And the cop continued up the stairs. What does he's okay, he works here mean? Who else in the building would have shot someone but someone who works there, right? So that's kind of interesting. But the real point about that is no one knew. There wasn't CNN, there wasn't cell phones, there was radio. But as far as we know, no one's ever reported the radio was on during the presidential pass by in front of the building at the Texas School Book Depository. We've never heard anything about that. So there was no way to know where the president was until he was there. Well, the problem was in the newspaper, he was supposed to have passed the Texas School Book Depository at around 12:15, maybe 12:20. Now, he was shot at 12:30. And he was shot at 12:30 because Kennedy had stopped to talk to people in the crowd, both at Love Field and I believe once in the motorcade. So they were delayed. If you were going to shoot the president at 12:15, why would you be in a lunchroom? Why wouldn't you be at the sniper's nest, at 12:15? But he wasn't at the sniper's nest at 12:15. Nobody saw him there. There's a book called The Woman on the Stairs. Two women came down the stairs, never saw Lee Harvey Oswald on the staircase in the immediate aftermath of the assassination.
Okay, I got to ask you, because I'm
Go ahead.
being fascinated by everything you're saying right now. So what you're saying to me, if this is true, how could they even think it was him then?
Here's where we get, all right, we're going to peel back a conspiracy now.
Okay.
Lee Harvey Oswald, at 15 years old, was a air cadet, lived in Louisiana. His troop leader was a guy named David Ferry. If you saw the movie JFK, David Ferry was played by, what's his name? Anyway, he's the guy with the wig and the painted on eyebrows.
Yeah.
Joe Pesci played him.
Okay, yeah.
David Ferry is an unusual character in the assassination. He's an airline pilot, rumored to have worked for the CIA, rumored to have flown Jack Ruby to Havana to collect the mob proceeds from the casinos in Havana, Cuba, and possibly the guy who picked up 3 Corsican mob hitmen from Mexico City and brought them to Dallas, and they created a field of fire. A triangulated field of fire between the grassy knoll, the roof of the Texas School Book Depository, and the Dallas Records Building, or the Daltex Building.
Okay.
There's some confusion about that. But the point is, the whole idea was it wasn't Oswald at all. So why did you have Oswald there in the first place? The person that got Oswald the job indirectly at the Texas School Book Depository was a CIA guy who was monitoring Russian families coming into the Dallas area, a lot of Russian immigrants in the Dallas area. And he got him the job. There's a greater story about him, which is in the book, but he's connected to Jacqueline Kennedy, which is really weird.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yep.
so you've got this guy who's set up to kind of be the fall guy in an assassination attempt that he may not have had anything to do with. Now, why would you do that? Well, because if you satisfy the itch that we've got the guy that killed the president, no one's going to look any further if it was a conspiracy. One of the few things that Oswald said while he was in custody was, "I'm a patsy." He also said, when they asked him, "Did you shoot the president?" He said, no one's accused me of that. He was arrested ostensibly for the shooting of Officer Tippit, who was a Dallas police officer who was killed some 40 minutes after Kennedy was shot.
Oh.
And he was arrested in a movie theater. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And that's a strange and odd story. So it wasn't until like the middle of the night that they formally charged him with the murder of a president. So he would maintain he didn't shoot anybody, didn't kill anybody. And interestingly enough, he didn't have any traces of gunpowder on his cheeks through a paraffin test, which would have proved he fired a rifle.
Oh.
However, there was paraffin on his hands. So go figure what that means. Did he really shoot Tippit or not? When you talk to the people who are into the Tippit edge of this whole thing, and Tippit was a patrolman, Officer Tippit, who was in the Oak Ridge or Oak Cliff section of Texas, which is right outside where Oswald lived. Apparently, after the assassination, he walked out of the building. Nobody stopped him. He went on a bus. The bus was stuck because somebody killed the president, so he got off the bus, and he went to a cab stand, and he let a pregnant lady take the cab that was free, and he waited for another cab. This is a guy assassinating the president of the United States. And then he went home, but he had the cab pass his house by 3 blocks and then walk back. He got into his house, and his landlady, Ruth Payne, said that he not Ruth Payne, another landlady, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Landlady of the rooming house he was in, said, he put on his jacket and he left. Well, police believe he picked up a revolver when he left the rooming house. He was found with a revolver on him. There is reports that Tippett was shot with an automatic because they found shells on the street. And an automatic, when you fire an automatic, the shells come out. When you fire a revolver, the shells don't come out unless you manually take them out of the gun. So how did that all happen? Plus, there's a further forensic report that says there were 2 different types of bullets in Tippett. So you can go crazy. You can go absolutely crazy.
So wait. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So
This is all in the book, by the way. You can have fun with the book.
But listening to you talk about it is just so ridiculous. So, all right. So let me ask you something. He could have been a very brilliant man as well, where he staged everything perfectly and had an accomplice with him. I mean, it sounds like, the guy had a gun. The guy, it sounds like maybe he had something to do with it, but he was so brilliant that the way he staged the whole thing.
There you go. And, that's perfectly plausible, except
Okay.
he defected to Russia. He was working in Japan, in the northern islands of Japan, on a radar station. And that radar station principally tracked the U-2 spy flights, which was over the Soviet Union in the late 50s, early 60s. He had top secret clearance. By the way, his marksman level in the Marines was the lowest possible level. He got a medal, but it's the lowest level.
Okay.
Marksman, not expert or anything like that.
Okay.
So he's works top secret. He's at a top secret base. He's in contact with the U-2 flying missions. And then he decides to defect to Russia. He goes to Russia, marries a woman, Marina, has a baby girl. The Russians, according to some KGB and MGB files, say he was too crazy for them.
What
So
year
they
was
kicked
that? What year was that?
62.
I was a year old because I went to
Yeah.
Russia in the 80s when it was communist. I had machine guns pointed at me at the wall.
And fun, isn't it?
It was, oh no, I'm crazy. I was like, this is incredible. Wait till I tell this story. I wasn't even nervous. I got the rocks I wanted. But all right,
Well, that's
continue.
another reason to say God bless America.
That's right.
But so he comes back and he settles in Dallas. The CIA guy, a guy named DeMorenchild.
Was he with his family? Did he bring them here?
Yes, he came back
Okay,
with his
go ahead.
wife and daughter.
Okay, go ahead.
And because of that, people who were helping the Russian emigre community helped him in. But here's a guy who defected. He denounced his U.S. citizenship. And he comes back and no one's tracking him? Well, not really true. James Hosty was an FBI agent who 2 weeks before the assassination knocked on his door. And James Hosty tried to figure out what the heck he was doing in Dallas, this guy who had defected. And after the assassination, and James Hosty testified to this for the House Committee on Assassinations, he wrote every FBI agent, if they met you on the street, they'd have to write a 302, okay, which is a form that says the contact. Hosty wrote up his 302. The day or 2 days after the assassination, he went to his superior officer and said, I was talking to Oswald, what do you want to do with this? And I'm paraphrasing, get it out of here. I don't want it in the building. Destroy it. So Hosty destroyed. Some stories is he flushed it down the toilet. His whole pre-interview with Oswald 2 weeks before. But let's not get too crazy because here comes the slam dunk.
Okay.
Oswald, when he's in the theater being arrested by the cops, he takes his gun and he puts it to the temple of one of the arresting officers, and he goes, and it goes click. Well, Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas, in the midnight news conferences or press conferences, tells a story. He says, well, he held a gun to but it misfired. Later on, the FBI report, which is hard to find, indicated that that pistol had a bent firing pin, which means it didn't hit the primer, which is why that policeman was still alive. If that's the pistol he shot the other policeman with, the pin didn't get bent between then and the theater.
Wow, okay.
So that's a crazy part of it.
Okay.
But here's the craziest. Jack Ruby. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Jack Ruby was a club owner. He owned a strip club in Dallas. He was a kind of a wannabe everything. He had connections to the mob, as any strip club owner would. It's rumored that he did pickups in Havana for the mob, for Traficante and a guy named Sam Giancana. Sam Giancana had Marilyn Monroe for a girlfriend, and so did John Kennedy. So they shared the same girlfriend. I mean, you can go a million directions here. Anyway, so here you got Ruby, and Ruby is kind of known. Cops go to strip bars. So he knew all the cops, even though all the cops after the assassination said we never heard of the guy. But they heard of him enough that he was able to get into the police department basement twice, 3 times maybe. But the twice that he was in the basement, the first time was during the district attorney, Henry Wade's impromptu midnight press conference. And somebody said, hey, is this guy a member of any kind of right-wing group? And D.A. Wade said, no, he does belong to something called Give Cuba a Break or something like that. And from the other side of the room, you hear, fair play for Cuba. And Wade goes, fair play for Cuba. Thanks, Jack. And the Jack is Jack Ruby. The night before, or the night of the assassination, fair play for Cuba, nobody knew. Nobody knew it at 12:30 when he shot the president. Nobody knew it at 3 o'clock. Nobody knew it until Wade said it, except if you lived in Louisiana. Because in Louisiana, on a local television station, and you can see this video on the internet, is pictures of Lee Harvey Oswald, this guy out of nowhere, handing out leaflets. And the leaflets say fair play for Cuba. And he's on TV because there was a scuffle. Now, nobody really got hurt. And if I was going to stage a scuffle, that's the way I would stage it. So he gets on TV and they interview him. And he does a very intellectual dissertation between the difference between totalitarianism and communism. And it's thoughtful and it sounds like he's smart. When you look at the piece of paper, the Fair Play for Cuba Committee leaflet that he handed out, there's an address at the bottom. It's an address of a building that has 2 different addresses in Louisiana, in New Orleans. It's one of these triangle buildings, like the Flatiron Building in New York, One side of the street is the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. The other side of the street is the same address as the Office of Naval Intelligence. Just figure that one out.
Listen, I can't.
So wait, it gets even better. So now you've got a guy who was maybe drafted by David Ferry into the CIA, who goes to Russia and then magically is allowed back into the country to begin with. So did he go to Russia as a spy? Did he go to Russia as a spy for the United States? Is he working for the CIA? Well, it wasn't until 2 years ago that they released enough paperwork to say, yeah, well, kind of like the CIA did know who he was. After denying it for 58 years, we finally got the paperwork. Said, yeah, the CIA kind of knew who he was. He went to Mexico City. He tried to defect to Mexico City. We covered him there. Then he came back. Yada, 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 yada. So it's not clean. He's not just some guy that got up one morning and said, hey, I'm going to shoot the president today. Didn't happen that way. So you got all this smoke, right? What happened? I believe he was set up as a patsy.
Okay.
I believe that
Okay.
he was supposed to take the hit. Unbeknownst to him, he was set up. They said, oh, he brought the rifle in a bag, curtain rods or something.
Yep.
There's only one person who testified to that. Only one person.
Okay.
And that person, Wesley Frazier, was the first person arrested for killing the President of the United States. Let me freeze that.
Okay.
Before they had Oswald,
Okay.
they arrested Wesley Frazier, who worked at the Texas School Book Depository, who was the guy who drove Oswald from work to home on the weekends.
Okay.
The chief of police, Curry, actually threatened the Dallas Police Department had a reputation of always getting their man, whether it was their man or not.
Okay.
Meaning forced confessions, threats. They weren't clean in any way. Even though the homicide division wore white hats, white cowboy hats, they had a pretty cranky reputation. So Wesley says that Curry said, sign this confession that you shot the President of the United States. And when he wouldn't, Curry got really physical with him. And Frazier says, he said to Curry, look, you may come after me, but I'll get you before your boys get me. And that backed him off. And they let him go. But they did take his story that Oswald showed up with curtain rods that morning. And his sister, and this is in the Warren Report, you can see it, said from her kitchen window, they lived across the street from Oswald's rooming house, she saw Oswald walking with a package under his arm and holding it where the package was cupped in his palm under his arm. And Frazier says it was curtain rods. The doc man, the doc foreman at the Texas School Book Depository testified Oswald did not enter the building with anything in his arm, under his arm. Okay? Take that for what it's worth. But here's the only guy accused of killing the President of the United States, who, by the way, had owned an Enfield rifle, which is one of the rifles they took down from the roof that day.
Okay.
That's been hidden. Here's this guy being the only person in the world talking about curtain rods. Well, the distance between the inside of the shoulder and the palm of the hand, maybe 22 inches, maybe 24. Oswald was about 5'8". The Mannlicher Carcano rifle, which he was accused of shooting the president with, if you broke it down, it's 3 feet. It's 40 inches built, could be 3 feet, or 32 inches if you had a different model Mannlicher, and there are two different rifles that we see, which I'll go into in a minute. None of them would fit under your arm. The FBI came out with a paper bag that they said the rifle was in, but then we later found out they made that bag to explain the idea. We also found out that the Dallas Police Department moved around the boxes in the sniper's nest until it looked just right in the photograph. They also first found all the 3 slugs that came out of, or the shells that came out of the rifle in perfect alignment, laid out on the floor like somebody laid them out. But the other part about all that was they said they found a chicken sandwich and a Dr. Pepper. And of course, Walter Cronkite, who 15 minutes after the assassination is, you can see this online, he goes, 3 shots rang out today as an assassin took, he said 3 shots right away. Walter Cronkite then told the world that the assassin had eaten a chicken, fried chicken, and a Dr. Pepper. In those days, in the Deep South, in the 60s, Dr. Pepper was not widely consumed.
Okay.
It was consumed by a group of an ethnic group.
Okay.
One of them group was on the 5th floor having a chicken lunch with his Dr. Pepper. Remember, Oswald was buying a Coke. So the person eating the chicken lunch wasn't even on the 6th floor. They didn't find it in the sniper's nest. They found it a floor below. The sniper's nest was the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, now a museum. And the 5th floor was where this gentleman of black persuasion was having his lunch, watching the president. Dr. Pepper? Yeah, great. It's kind of weird. It's just a little footnote in history.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. So then, where did Ruby come in? So Jack Ruby, who managed to be at least in the hallway one day, down in the basement the next day, who none of the cops said they ever knew. There was a stripper. This gets good. There was a stripper found on the side of the road 2 days before the assassination, and she was left for dead, but she didn't die. When they found her, she said, "Oh, I was at a table with Jack Ruby and Oswald and Tippit, and they were discussing shooting the president." Take that for what you want. Whether that happened, but it didn't. Again, there's only two things we know.
Right.
President's dead, and Ruby shot Oswald.
Right.
Everything else is speculation and hearsay.
Right.
So now you've got someone placing Oswald in the Carousel Club. Well, why not? And you can go online, you can find a picture of 15-year-old Lee Harvey Oswald as an air cadet and his troop leader, David Ferry, in a helmet as the boys are cooking something or doing something in the field. David Ferry obviously flew Ruby to Cuba to pick up mob money. So yeah, they would know each other. And the interesting thing is that Oswald is credited, and they didn't know this for a while, with having taken a shot at a General Walker. General Walker was a right-wing John Birch Society general who was fired by the Kennedys for passing out John Birch Society literature in the Wiesbaden Air Force Base in Germany in the early 60s. And it was all right-wing propaganda stuff. On the day Kennedy was shot, there was an ad in the Dallas Morning News sponsored by the John Birch Society, and it was wanted for treason. And it had a black border around it, like funereal, like from a funeral. And it had listed all the reasons why Kennedy should be dead. That ran in the Dallas Morning News the day, November 22nd. So it was all this stuff about right wing, which is why the reporter said, is he a member of a right wing organization? And when Wade said, no, he's actually pro-Cuba, man, he's a communist, it upset everything. It upset the whole thing. And they had to figure out a way not to get this guy from the left accused of, killing the president and all that. I'm not getting him to talk about it. So I believe he was supposed to be killed by Tippit. Okay? I believe he was supposed to be dead. And he wasn't dead. Because if he's dead, there are no questions. Case closed. Had he lived and gone to trial, I believe it would have been pretty good odds that he'd get off, because no eyewitness, all the evidence circumstantial, paraffin tests that did not prove positive, and a number of other issues that would relate to, if they had it, the autopsy, if they had it, the brain, if they had it, sound with the Zapruder film, they didn't have. All of these things, I believe he could get off. But what would he have said? I got the job through the CIA. I worked for the CIA. I don't know why the government's doing this to me. They told me. And when he said that, the defense attorney would say the following thing: Thomas Valley. And the judge would go, what? And he'd say, Thomas Valley, Your Honor. I call Thomas Valley to the stage and to the dock. Thomas Valley, if he was alive, would walk in and say, well, that's right. I served in the Japanese base that Oswald did. We were members of the same unit. I was recruited by the CIA, and I was in Chicago a month before. And because I was in Chicago, I saw two Cuban guys who were going to kill President Kennedy on a trip to Chicago. Thomas Valley is the Chicago Oswald. He was going to take the fall for two Cuban shooters, his words, that were going to be in a high, tall building, a hotel, and we're going to take out the president in his motorcade. When the Secret Service found out about this, and it was a black Secret Service agent that found out about this, and he was summarily dismissed and run roughshod. But when he found out about this, the Kennedys canceled the trip to Chicago. Had the Chicago assassination gone down, we wouldn't know of Lee Harvey Oswald. We'd know the name Thomas Valley. And whether or not he would have survived is speculation. You can't have all these things flying around as simple. It was 3 shots, lone gunman, no conspiracy. That's the finding of the Warren Commission.
Okay.
And to believe the Warren Commission, everything is spontaneous. The route of the president's motorcade wasn't put into the newspaper till 2 days before the motorcade. In that short period of time, Lee Harvey Oswald, who, if anything, sided with Kennedy and thought Kennedy was a hero, okay, because he stopped the invasion of Cuba by not giving air support to the CIA's plan to invade Cuba, which is the Bay of Pigs, which was a disaster because Kennedy did not support them, which is why the CIA would kind of want him dead. And he would be, if you're a really fair play for Cuba guy, you would thank him for that. He saved Cuba. So that doesn't make any sense. So then you've got this whole kind of fog around who Oswald really was and who he talked to and who was going there. Who was his wife? Who was Ruth Payne, who gave his wife somewhere to live, and he lived until they couldn't live together anymore. And then he moved to the other rooming house. Ruth Payne says that the curtain rods are in her garage. Go figure. But there is a picture of Oswald holding a rifle and that pistol in a backyard that the Marina, his wife, said she didn't take the picture of. But the Warren Commission says she did. But when you look at that rifle, and I invite anybody to do this, the strap that goes on the rifle, there's 2 ways to attach a strap to a rifle. One is if this is the rifle, the little points that you attach the strap to are on the bottom of the rifle. There's another way you go into the stock of the rifle from the side. The rifle that he's holding in the picture, the Mannlicher Carcano C2999, I think is the serial number. That rifle that he's holding in the picture has the straps on the bottom. When the police chief, Curry of Dallas, holds up that rifle in the police department, you can plainly see that the strap comes out of the stock, the side of the stock. Go figure. Go figure what that means. We don't even have to get into the magic bullet unless you have another hour.
So
we don't have to get into
we
to
don't.
any of
All
that.
right, we have a few more minutes.
ahead.
First off, what I want to say to you is this is fascinating. And again, because I did meet Robert F. Kennedy Jr., so to me it's even more fascinating. I want you to take a couple minutes and just share with us what got you involved in this. Please.
The intro of my book says, on November 22nd, and I'm paraphrasing my own book, 1964, I was in the 4th grade in Mrs. Tronconi's class. And when we got the news that Kennedy was shot, Joey Lands, who up to that point, his claim to fame was he had the ability to lick the bottom of his shoe. It was 4th grade, okay? That was like cool. He could reach down and lick the bottom of his shoe. So that was his claim to fame. And as soon as we heard that the president was shot, Joey Lands said, "We should bomb Russia now." This is 4th grade.
Okay.
Joey had no idea who was responsible for the killing. 60 years later, we still don't. We know as much as Joey Lands knew, and he licked his shoe. We know nothing. And everyone who claims to know something, from the Warren Commission to the House Committee on Science on Assassinations to other groups, informal, to conventions that happen every year from leading forensic people. There was just a documentary on what the Parkland doctors saw. When you listen to that documentary, it's like, wow, somebody spent a couple of $1 million to make this documentary, and it's everything that's on YouTube. But they happen to have footage from 1992 and footage from 2004. And that's an interesting thing. As you research this, you see the same characters age. You see them when they're young men, you see them as middle-aged men, you see them as old men, and then they die. And that's one less witness we have. But the Parkland doctors, the trauma team, they said it was an entrance wound. Now, I saw, in 1972, a dent in the chrome of the limousine. And that totally and completely got me thinking. So in 1972, I see this picture of the limousine. I see a dent in the chrome above the windshield that no one's explaining. And it wasn't until last September that John Landis came forward, Paul Landis, Secret Service agent who was Jackie Kennedy's Secret Service agent
Okay.
on the motorcade. And he claimed he found what everybody's calling the magic bullet, which supposedly went through 7 wounds of humans and landed on a stretcher in Parkland Hospital. He claims he found it in the back of the limousine, in the back, not having gone to anybody. There's a whole cornucopia of stuff based on that. But the point is, with those 2 facts, I put it together with the dent in the windshield, and I came up with a new theory, which I believe happened. Whoever was shooting from the rear, the first shot may have hit a lamppost, and that lamppost may have ricocheted the bullet, and that may have hit the windshield chrome,
Okay.
bounced back, and went into Kennedy's throat, thus causing an entrance wound.
Okay. Okay.
Bullet from the back, entrance wound in the front.
Okay.
But the doctors used that as a tracheotomy, and they destroyed the evidence of the wound. I have a video on this I can send you. That to me is the most plausible answer.
Okay.
Was there a grassy knoll shooter? Unknown.
Okay.
There were people who said, I saw the smoke rise right there. It was rifle smoke. I heard it. And the guys working in the railroad actually ran around to try and catch the guy. Okay. The cops, again, first 14 minutes of the Dallas Police Department radio transcripts is head to the railroad area. What's the railroad area? The grassy knoll is in front of the railroad yard. All the cops were going to the railroad area.
Okay.
And then it changed at some point mysteriously to the Texas School Book Depository, where Oswald may have been already pre-stationed and set up as a patsy.
Well, Tom, first of all, I want to thank you for this interview. Okay. Fascinating. Fascinating. Tell everyone again how to get your book.
You can hit the QR code right there, and that'll take you to it. You can go to asknotbook.com, asknotbook.com, and you might find some of my other books too. You can look me up on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. I've got 5 #1 bestsellers. I've got a new book coming out that's going to be great called Wife and Death. I got another one called Aquasapien in the oven. Can you smell it? It's coming out. So yeah, a lot of good stuff to read. This is my first historical kind of thriller. There's a map in there of Dealey Plaza. It goes into it. Again, it's pseudo historical because once you get into conspiracy theories, not so much. But I think it's a great ride for everybody. And so far, if the reviews are any indication, it's a real winner.
Okay, cool.
So if you get a chance, pick it up. If you know somebody who's into Kennedy, it makes a great gift. And if you just want to get a cool picture of Kennedy in the motorcade, the cover works.
Very cool. So, all right. So, I'm going to read a poem out of my book today.
Go.
I choose this poem for today because what you've done is incredible. And I want everyone out there to know who struggles with their self-worth, with their self-esteem, that everyone has something to offer. I mean, look what you've done, right? So I want to share this with everyone. And if anybody out there is struggling with not thinking you're good enough and you can't do something, you're wrong. So listen to all the words, please. It's called Utilizing Gifts and Talents. We are born with talents, we are born with drive, with different gifts to help us thrive. I knew early on I was born to draw and paint, to also write poetry, and to talk without restraint. Our gifts and talents should all be used, God's gift to us not be abused. We can go far in life for sure, using our gifts to go on tour. All our talents should be used to create ourselves and more, but then our job's to share them, to even up the score. You see, in life, what's needed is not just for ourselves. Once our gifts are mastered, take them off the shelves. A living we can make by spreading them around, not just for the money, but to spread a peaceful sound. Don't take for granted the gifts you're given. Go out and spread the joy. Our gifts are not to be held back for us to self-destroy. Put your efforts forth. Do not hesitate. All your talents, my friend, are never second rate. Never hold them back or you will surely die. Maybe not in body, but your soul will cry. Our gifts were made to share, our talents made to soar. Go through life enlightened and then you can roar. Be proud of who you are. Be happy you're alive. Once again, my friend, your gifts will help you thrive. By putting efforts forth, not keeping them at bay, your name, Tom, will live forever, baby, forever and a day. So go through life excited, for what you sure can give to yourself and others is our reason to live. Our grave will be quite lonely, but our legacy lives on. So make sure people smile with the breaking dawn. I hope.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. I hope that you guys were encouraged by today's show. It's brilliant, okay, what he's done with this book. And, you know, it's been such a long time, right? But people still talk about the Kennedy family.
60 years.
Okay.
It's been 60 years.
Think about that, okay? And people still talk about it. Young people are still learning about it in school. I mean, it's amazing and incredible, and that book is off the charts, okay? I'm telling you that. So check it out. Please share this show. Tom, I want to thank you again. It was a great interview, and you rock, man. And you rock.
Thank you.
So, producer, take us out. Thank you, Tom.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
Is it really true? Is it really true?
just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.